Okay, here we are. It's the first episode of Real Good at Doing Stuff. It's going to be awesome. So first, let's talk about what the channel is going to be about, the basics of it. So this is going to be about, I guess, in general, drag racing of all sorts, or the sorts at least that I'm familiar with. So I'm an engine builder, I guess. I used to say primarily, but now I kind of do a lot of things. But I'm an engine builder. I'm a tuner as far as dyno tuning and such, and also do a lot of power management and race car oriented things. And they're really three totally different things that kind of interlace, you know. So a lot of really, if you boil it all down, a lot of this channel is going to be about what it's like to be me. What I'm doing on a daily basis, you know, changes constantly, and some of you may find it interesting or entertaining or educational. So anyhow, I decided to kind of turn the camera on, and here we are. Today, the focus of this video is going to be about power management, and specifically about a particular car, BeerMoney, which you may be familiar with. It's a complete pile of junk, but we have a good time with it racing. And no prep. No prep is something that's really kind of new to me and us in general. We're kind of neophytes at this, but we're picking it up. But the same principles apply with this as in other forms of drag racing in many ways, you know, so we'll pick it up pretty quick. But anyhow, today what we're going to do is we're going to concentrate on the race at Darlington a few weeks ago, the No Prep Kings deal. And we'll probably cover the first 2 rounds plus the test pass today, and then we'll split the second half into another video. I guess what I want you people to pick up from this is we're going to talk about overarching principles and theories and why we do certain things, and not so much the details about how to run your bump box or you know what F7 and Holly does. I don't even know, but so I'm not the best person for some of that stuff, but I am maybe useful in other areas, and that's what we're going to talk about on this channel. So today, power management with BeerMoney, no prep. Well, let's look at some data here. The first thing we did off the trailer is make a test pass. We weren't actually planning on getting the test pass, but we did. We thought this was going to be E1. Turned out to not be E1. Probably doesn't change much. We would have done pretty much the same thing either way. But the first pass, if I remember right, we were actually maybe the first pair down on a completely green track. So that just means things are really slippery. We've got a pretty sure we're going to go down at pass. May not be the prettiest thing ever, but it should go. Right? And that's pretty much what happened. A lot of wheel speed just from slipping around. Let's look at that now. Okay, so in this car we use a Holly for the engine management and boost controller, runs the whole car pretty much. And we also use Davis Technologies Profiler to manage wheel speed. These two things together are, I guess, my weapons of choice nowadays. And not the only things I use, but a lot of times that's what we use. And some of the focus on this channel is going to be about both of these. All right, so this data here is... the blue line here is the drive shaft path from the first pass, and the green line is the profile. And the profile is the intended drive shaft path. So basically, that's where we're trying to go, where we're trying to match our power application with the racetrack. Now you can see down here we're really slipping. We're over the profile. And it's managing it. It's pulling it all back down. You see down here the corrections. We're pulling a lot of time, and we're smart dropping. We're doing everything to get this tire back under control, and it's doing it. But it's slippery. It gradually kind of catches up down here, and you can see down here it really tugs it. And that's where we've been slipping so much. We've got a lot of wheel speed, but we're not normally at the speed we would be at this point in the track, right? We'd normally be going faster right here. Let's say we're going 100 mile an hour there. We would normally be going 115 or something. So when this thing grabs, it pulls the drive shaft down a good bit. We slip a little bit. It's still icy down here, but we have a little more grip, right? So we're way below our profile on the second half of the track. Okay, long story short, we'll look at that video right now. Okay, that's pretty much as expected. Goes down the track, not the prettiest thing in the world, but goes A to B, and that's that. So now we need to make some changes for the next round based off the data from that pass. Now, in this case, we have a racetrack that is really changing. In no prep, this is probably something that you deal with more than any other type of drag racing. Because what happens is the track isn't prepped, but throughout the day, as you put a bunch of race cars with a bunch of power down it, they prep the racetrack. So the track changes drastically from the first pass to the last pass. And that's something that you really need to understand if you're going to do any type of no prep racing. So we know that between T1 and E1, there have been a bunch of race cars go down this track. And it is no longer what I would consider green. There's a little bit of grip there. So what I'm going to do in here, if you'll look, let me turn this drive shaft off. I'm moving the profile down. The yellow lines are the new profile for E1. And you can see right in here, I've just pulled everything down a little bit, just to try to grab it a little bit and pull it, just slow that wheel down, right? And up here, I'm doing the same thing, because even if we're hooked up and moving right, we're probably not going to get up here. We're not going to have enough power in it to really get going this fast. So I'm going to keep it down and keep it safe a little bit so that we can drive the thing, so Lyle can drive it. Now, let's look at the Holly. See the same thing. If you look here in the boost map, down low, I'm not changing anything. And you may say, all right, well, that's crazy. You just spun like crazy. Yep, but the track is changed a good bit, and I'm banking on the wheel speed being a lot tighter down there and not needing to change much, right? I made a slight adjustment here. I don't remember why hardly at all. Mostly probably cosmetic. Just looked better to me. Up here, I've made a change in the time, not up here. Not in the dome pressure, and don't pay attention to these numbers. They don't matter to you because our gate sensor is not calibrated right, so these aren't going to jive with yours anyhow. But down here, instead of having this 60 pound figure happen at 2.5 seconds, I've changed it to 2.2. So we've moved it forward a little bit, and the reason being is I think the track's coming around. We're going to be hooked up by that point. And we can go ahead and get that power in and start moving this race car down the track. So as far as the boost changes, that's it. That's all we're changing. I'm basically counting on the track coming to us a little bit, and rolling with it. Over here, I'm using a comparison file to look at the differences in these tunes, and it's been a few weeks. I've made a small change in fuel out here, I think just to clean some stuff up. It has no bearing on the power management side of things at all. Not really a whole lot of changes between T1 and E1. But anyhow, let's take that to the racetrack for E1 and see how that turns out. E1 is in the books. That pass is so good, I had to go change the shirt. Start a whole new day and everything. All right, let's look at what went down in E1 and try to see if we can improve things, go faster. We got to get ready for E2. Generally speaking, as you get up in the rounds, the cars are faster and faster. That was a fast car. Obviously, it was a race car. Some of that engine noise that you heard coming off the brake there actually wasn't us. It sounds like it was, but it wasn't. That was the other car. The motor was kind of up and down, so it's a little bit confusing. But anyhow, so let's look at profiler data first. As predicted, our wheel speed is down because the track is way tighter, right? It snaps the tire just a little bit right here. In the profiler, generally speaking, in the first tenth and a half or so, I generally make a dead spot where nothing is happening. We're not doing any corrections. So right here, nothing, even though we're above the profile, nothing happens. Then as we get to it, to the first stage that does have corrections in it, we jerk some time and just a tickle, and it sticks the tire a lot, really more than I'd really like, and we basically stay pretty stuck the rest of the way down the track. On the shift, it catches it just a tick. That honestly, you could take this retard out and it would probably still catch it. We get above it just a little right there, barely tickle some timing out, and then on the 2-3, same thing, just barely nibbles it. But in the profile, the guess was pretty close because we're right on that line. But so that worked. Now let's look at the Holley data. Okay, same thing. Now a lot of times I also use a VPS on this car, most every car. And in the VPS, in addition to looking at G meter, which is crucial, or G data, I'll also look at pitch, roll, and yaw. And the reason for this is I can get some idea how much moving around we're doing on the racetrack. This is really important in no prep. So in our yaw, a little moving around, but not really that bad. We'll see a lot worse before this is all over with. That's drivable. Lyle can manage that no problem. Walk in the park. You have to keep these things in mind. If you're going to be the crew chiefy tuner guy, you're kind of responsible for this, and you have to try to come up with stuff that is drivable, you know. And a lot of that depends on who your driver is. Most of you guys may be dealing with the same driver all the time. I'm not. I deal with drivers of different skill, experience levels, and different natural talent levels. And you have to factor that in when you're trying to send a race car down the track. In this case, Lyle's both very experienced and extremely naturally talented. All right, let's look at pitch. All right, we're up just a little bit. The most it gets to is 2.7. That's fine, normal. I think I'm not doing anything until somewhere in the 3-degree range. I use a 2D table to adjust that. We'll look at that at some point, not right now. Roll, not much going on there either. Sometimes this is useful for determining whether or not your car has enough anti-roll bar. Usually the answer to that question is no, it does not. Because I believe there's no such thing as enough. So anyhow, let's figure on what we're going to do for E2 at this point. Everything looks pretty good in this department. So in E2, what we did is basically I think we can go faster. And, you know, if you can, you need to be working on it, because as we get up in the rounds, cars are going to get faster, track's better. And one thing that I've learned in the no prep game, this was my biggest learning point in no prep, is that it was hard for me to know how fast. There's no qualifying, so And most times I'm not familiar with the guys in the other lane. I don't know who they are. So people say, "Oh, this car, he's not that fast. We can probably leave it alone." Well, every time I've done that, we've lost rounds and gone home, and I've learned to take a different strategy as far as that goes in no prep. I race the lane, not the car. Usually I race the car in the other lane, but and don't take chances I don't need to. But in no prep, I look at it a little different, and if we can get down, we're gonna get down. All right. So in the second round, what I did is I moved the profile up through here. It's already high enough here to add power. We're under it right now, right? And then I'm going to give room to grow the rest of the track. Not a lot, but a little bit, right? We just move things up. The pink line here is the profile we just ran. The yellow dots are the profile that I created for E2. The kind of grayish blue line, obviously, is the drive shaft we just ran in E1. Okay, now moving into the Holly. Let's see what we're doing in here. All right, these are our changes from E1 to E2. The base fuel table, I made a slight change in here. I believe this is coming off the brake. I made a little fuel change. Looks like I'd added just a tickle of fuel. This is often overlooked areas. Your air-fuel ratio in the 60. You got to be careful there. You can make big improvements, or you can fix problems and accidentally add a lot of power. And you're like, oh, why'd I hammer the tire there all of a sudden? Well, because you took it from out left field to let's go. So you can do as much good or bad there as the boost controller. You have to be very constantly aware of that, and that changes day by day in some cases, especially these alcohol deals. Okay, so spark. Let's go there. I believe, if I remember right, what I did out back was add 1 degree. In this case, I know that we're low on timing, and I'm adding a degree because I know it'll make more power. And we can use it, so I'm going to do it. You have to remember, we're working with what we got here. BeerMoney's a stock block LS, so we can't go crazy with the tune-up here and there and everywhere, but this is a risk I'm willing to take out here. I think it'll be fine. And I know it's going to make more power. So I put a degree in it there to help run the back a little bit. Boost versus time. I add, okay, first of all, let's go to setup. Launch target. I add a pound on the gate on the trans brake, right? Now we're leaving at the same RPM. I'm just adding a pound of boost, right? Now, boost versus time. And so your boost on the starting line is extremely important. We might do a video just about that at some point. But it's much more, it determines what's going to happen in the 60 more than your boost controller stuff in the 60, right? What you're doing at, 0.3 seconds is cool and all, but if you don't have the start line boost right, there's probably not a change you can make. It's not going to respond that fast. So you have to get it right on the start line as far as this determines a lot of how much power you're going to apply throughout the 60. All right, boost versus time in the 60. I'm adding, looks like I added about a pound or so. I added about a pound through the 60, right? Just to try to maintain that starting line advantage and give some more power through the 60. Push us up on the profile a little bit. And then out the back, in addition to the timing, I added 5 pounds of dome. I know where we're at. I know it'll make a little more power. Not a lot. We're at the end of this turbo, but may as well use what we got if we can. And that's what we're doing. So it's should make a little more boost, a little more power out back, a little more in the front. And I feel like that's going to be a relatively safe adjustment. So let's take that to the starting line and see what happens in E2. Honda E3. You guys hear that little pump fake there? That wasn't part of my plan, but Lyle added a little spice to the tune-up and did a little pump fake and got the other guy to go in first. Anyhow, it made me laugh. So anyhow, I guess that's going to bring us to the conclusion of the first episode of Real Good at Doing Stuff. I'm going to try to get the second half of this race ready for next week. So tune in, like and subscribe and all that stuff. Hopefully you're getting something out of this. And that's enough for one day. We'll see you next week.